right, so do you really want to win or just look good losing? As most of you know, I get to speak in the beginning of a lot of Jerome's presentations, events, and all that because Jerome and I go way back. I found this picture, Jerome. This is the stoop. So, if you all know our story, Jerome and I had a conversation right here on the stoop. So before I get to that actual conversation, Jerome and I went to college together. We went to North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, the official name of it. Aggie Pride.
Aggie Pride?
Yeah. So, Jerome lived upstairs, the apartment's directly up here. I lived downstairs. We used to meet right here on the stoop. He was still a little bit higher. I was sitting usually right about here. We would have conversations about life. Jerome was one of the few people that I would have conversations about life with at school. And for us, life was about making money, sports, cars, right? Not so much sports anymore, but making money, family, and cars is our thing now, right? So that's what we're talking about. Right here on the stoop, Jerome and I, we would pass magazines back and forth. So in college, we're about 20, 21 years old. Jerome and I were passing back 4 magazines. Jerome gave another, Harvard Business Review, Black Enterprise magazines. We were giving each other articles about how to become wealthy at a very young age. And that's where we have the peer-to-peer coaching and the conversation that set us on this path and how I kind of got right here today. Jerome and I sat there and we calculated the rent that I was paying and my roommates were paying, the rent that his roommates were paying, and we figured out that the gentleman that owned the complex was making about $700,000 a year, and we never met him. Never seen him. Don't know how this works, but that's a lot of money, a lot more than what we would think we would be making once we graduated from school with engineering degrees, right? So I was an industrial engineer. Jerome was a civil engineer, and that's why Jerome actually has a pencil in here. We had a thing in college where engineers should always have a pencil. It was between me and him and I, but it was one of our things. Always had a pencil. And as you can tell, this one is actually Jerome. All right, so the conversation on the stoop that led us to this point right here about apartment ownership. I know a lot of people in here are into real estate, so my presentation won't go that much into real estate, but this is where it actually all started. So Jerome and I, we graduated, we left school. We kind of went separate ways, but we both ended up back in the city of Richmond, Virginia. I actually ran into Jerome it was actually at a club on Perry Street for those that live in Richmond at one night, and then we kind of rekindled what we were doing in college. So in college, like I said, we were passing magazines back and forth and articles to get ourselves, to better ourselves as human beings, right? We would have deep conversations about where we were going to work, how much money we were going to make, how to be a better person. The conversations changed a little bit once we graduated. The conversations started going towards YouTube videos, right? And information about being a better man. One of the articles I vividly remember us first sharing once we reconnected was from Brene Brown, and it was about vulnerability. And throughout my presentation, you'll see that vulnerability is a thing for me, right? Being vulnerable to the correct people can skyrocket your success and skyrocket how much you can progress in a short period of time. All right, so now we are working our full-time job. Well, I am working my full-time job. Sorry, working my full-time job. I thought I was going to be living the dream. And this is what I thought the dream was once I graduated from college. This picture, right? After work, you hang out with your boys, you drink, you get up, you do it all over again, right? I had a roommate. We didn't really go out to eat and drink and like that. But this is what I thought it was. So at one point in my life, I was living the quote-unquote dream. I was going out after work, had a girlfriend. You can see that second bullet there. I had all that at one point. Just one man living in an apartment. 2 cars, 2 pickup trucks, an ATV, and I was living in an apartment, right? That's a lot for one man sharing an apartment with my best friends, right? I was also running the t-shirt business off my personal credit card. The business was actually pretty successful. I had did t-shirts throughout my college career, and I just kind of carried itself on into after college. But I used to always have this one question stuck in my head, right? I do a lot for my parents. So I'm at their house one day, I'm mowing their grass, and I'm looking at the trucks. And because I had to park at their house, I live in an apartment, I only have 2 spaces, right? So I'm looking at the trucks that are sitting there, look at the ATV that's sitting there, and I'm thinking about all the money that I'm spending on this. Then I started thinking about the things that I really wanted to do about it, right? The things that I was doing at that time was because of the circle that I was in, right? Now I recognize the influence that the circle was having on me. I'm a car guy, right? So I enjoyed having those, but that wasn't what I really wanted to do. So then I started having this reoccurring question. And when I say reoccurring, I would probably think about it every 1 to 2 days for a very long time. What if more of my paycheck were free? And by that, I mean I didn't have bills to allocate money towards. I could do whatever I wanted to with that money. So out of all those vehicles I had, only one of them got a car had. So I've always been frugal. I took care of my credit in college, so I'm not gonna sell you a dream like I was out here spending way too much money. I've always been a pretty frugal guy with my money. Had one car payment though, and I was paying student loans. And student loans was the majority of my payments at that time. Had a girlfriend who is my now wife, been together for 15 years. One thing that I enjoy is eating out with my wife, spending time with her. Over dinner, I like to have chefs explain to me how they cook their food and things of that nature. So it's one of the things that I enjoy, and many social functions. So that's a lot, but a few places where my money was actually going. Like I said, I had that recurring question for a long time. Jerome and I were still passing back the information back and forth about being a better man, about being a better financial steward to our money. And then one day, I don't know about you guys, but as a car guy, my meditation is driving. This car right here I got in college. This is my 1996 Toyota Tercel. Quick story, Jerome talks about celebrating other people's successes. I was one of the few people in college that lived in an apartment complex that didn't have a car. The day I got this car, Jerome was like, we're going to CC's and I'm paying. So we piled in my car and we hit CC's and Jerome had a smile from ear to ear like it was his car the entire time. But there's a quick story about that. But so I used to use this car as my meditation device. Even though I had nicer cars, I used to get in this one, it would allow my brain to work. It was because it was a manual. And like I said, I'm a driver, so this is how I meditated. And one day I was driving down Broad Street in Richmond, listening to Dreams by Little Brother. That's a group from North Carolina, a rap group. I've listened to this song millions of times before. But then, as I'm towards Short Pump, the song Dreams come on, and at the end of the song, rapper Fonte says, do you really want to win or just look good losing? And for some reason, it pierced through my brain that night. I guess because I was meditating and I was trying to figure some things out in my life, that line that was my red pill moment. That was the red pill moment for me. That's when I recognized that I was looking good losing. I was in debt, close to $80,000. I was 50 pounds over the weight I should have been. I was spending money and spending time with people that I shouldn't have been spending money and time with, and I wasn't growing towards that inner voice, that inner question that I didn't answer. I wasn't growing towards it. And then it instantly became frustrating. It instantly became frustrating. I can't say I was clinically depressed because I'd never seen anybody, but I instantly became mad at everything in my life. I looked at myself in the mirror, I'm not the man I should be. I looked at the people around me, I'm not growing for them as I should. So that's when I had a phone call with Jerome after work one day. I'm driving from my job, which was actually not too far from where Jerome lived, and I said, I need to talk to somebody about this. And this is where being vulnerable comes back into play. I couldn't talk to the people that would be my direct circle about this because we've never shared information like that before. We went out, we partied, we drove our cars, we had a good time, but we never talked about money, family, growing your career, being a man, and what that means to you. So I called Jerome. Jerome said the infamous words of, are you ready? Because I've been down this path. And this is why I call myself Jerome's patient zero for his coaching program, right? So I told Jerome what I wanted to do. He said, I've been there. Are you ready to go down this path? I took myself back to that moment of that instant frustration, and I said, yes, I need to change. So, first thing we wanted to change is we took a cut at my budget. As I said, I was always a frugal guy. So I had I kept a budget, right? So I knew where all my money was going. Being vulnerable, I actually showed Jerome exactly what I was making, the money that was coming into my household. Some people won't do that. I will talk exact figures with you when it comes to money. I'm not above anybody, I'm not under anybody. It's money, it's fluid. We make it, we don't sometimes, we just have to figure it out, right? Took a swing at my budget. Jerome said, man, you know what? You got some extra money in your budget. What do you mean I have extra money in my budget? I've been counting this money for years now. I know where my money's at in my budget. Jerome said, take a look at this. You can probably get cheaper car insurance. You can probably cut money here. Do you really need all that money allocated to this point? That sent my mind spinning of, okay, I'm spending money on things that I don't really need to spend money on, that I can do without. Things that we feel like are necessities at times, but they're not. I started getting rid of cable. My then girlfriend, now wife, I'll say that a lot throughout this presentation, I told her, you know what, we can't go out to eat as many times. Didn't really get any pushback with her on that. We were both trying to lose weight, worked out perfect, right? Stop going out to eat, we'll be okay. As I started stripping away, I started seeing more money into my budget. At that point, so this was my dream car, the car that I was actually making payments on. That was the 2004 Cadillac CTS V, the very first generation of that car. Had a blast with it. I paid that car off, right? That was one of the first things I wanted to do, because I didn't want to sell the car because I'm a car guy. Paid the car off, freed up some money. All right, the next thing I need to get rid of is actually my student loans. But I wasn't ready to attack that yet. So I searched for, one thing I recognized is I needed to make more money at that point, right? Searched for new opportunities within my company. Had a chance to actually move up from Richmond, Virginia to Northern Virginia, where most of the government contracting jobs are at. Moved up there, and this is how I was living. I did not want to raise my standard of living to my income. I started to recognize this thing called the gap. The gap is so important to achieving your dreams and getting you to where you want to go. I lived in an apartment with my girlfriend. We both moved there at the same time. She was pursuing a career opportunity in DC, worked out perfect. We lived together. In our apartment, Pakistan chair from Target, a nightstand with a 27-inch flat screen TV, which is essentially a computer monitor now. Nothing inside there. I didn't have my bike, shout out to COVID. I didn't have my bike in that room. And we had a mattress that we bought from Richmond, and then I had my two cars. Had paid one off, but I had my Toyota Tercel, and I had my Cadillac. That was pretty much my possessions at the time. But I didn't raise my standard of living above that because I recognized if I leave Richmond and I'm making this, I move here and I'm making more, I can't close this gap. This is what's going to help me out. This is what I use to start paying off my student loans. Sold my car, Jerome was a little disappointed, remember that conversation, but had to go, right? That's when I recognized this possession I can use to catapult me forward in my efforts to pay off my student loans. So I sold that in 2014, and then I got a part-time job. Another reason, another time where I recognized I needed to make a little more money to make this gap a little bit bigger, right? Didn't have any kids at the time, like I said, just me and my girlfriend. Got the part-time job, didn't close that gap. So that's how I was living, prior possession sold. Timeline of events that brings us almost to the current day. With this gap that I had, since Jerome was intimately personal with my finances, we started talking about hard money lending. He started explaining it to me, and I started participating in that. I utilized the money that would be coming from the hard money lending to either stay in the gap or pay off my student loans. I didn't really use much of the hard money lending for that. I actually used that to go into real estate, as you'll see the 3 big real estate deals on there. But with the gap that I created with my full-time W-2 and the part-time W-2 that I was working, I took that and I was able to pay off my student loans in 2016. Now the plan that I wrote down, being an engineer, James, being an engineer, Jerome, the plan that I wrote down had me paying off my student loans in about 6 to 8 years ago. That was done in 4. Getting a part-time job, not raising my standard of living, paid off my student loans in 4 years. At that point, I walked into my job and was like, you know what? Part-time job, I don't really need you guys anymore. I can quit. The manager actually talked me into staying because he was like, you're just probably working too much. I was working 40 hours, 60 hours as a project manager on one side, and 30 hours as a sales consultant for Bose speakers, right, in the actual store. So I had my fair share of hours put in W-2s. So instead of quitting, I just lowered my hours to maybe about 20 hours a week. That 10 hours didn't make a big difference. Maybe about 20 hours a week, and I stayed there, and I kept that gap. Then I actually had another opportunity to raise my income. When I say opportunity to raise my income, I pursued different positions that would increase the money that I was making from my paycheck, my W-2. Took that job. My girlfriend was like, go for it. She didn't really care as long as I was making more money and wasn't really impacting her because we were making more money was coming to the house. Jerome introduced me to our first multifamily investment. So if you rewind all the way back till 2002, us sitting on the stoop, it actually came true in 2017. If you know Jerome's story, you know behind the man that came up and how Jerome had to pursue that deal. And Jerome was actually came to me and was like, do you want to participate? Because I stayed diligent and disciplined in my spending, I had the money to invest into that deal. Got married in 2017? 2017 for 110K. Like I said, always been frugal. There's one note in here that I want to bring up that I feel like is highly important. All the way until, if you're reading this timeline, all the way until 2019, I never made over $100,000. I never made over $100,000 a year. And this is important because a lot of people think that you have to make so much money to actually get into the real estate opportunities, to actually start pursuing your dreams, to actually start creating that gap that you need to get yourself forward in your life, that quiet whisper that James and Jerome talk about that always comes back. To actually pursue that, they think you're gonna have $1 million. They think you gotta have a lot of money. I never made over $100,000 until about 2019. Invested in my second multifamily deal with Jerome, which was that the funny story or the third one? Third one was a funny story. I became a father in 2018 and immediately sought James' advice as I became a father and wanted to spend time with my family, which was great for us. When I became a father, I quit my part-time job because I recognized that the time with my daughter is way more important than the money I'll be actually making. I recognize this because my father is going through that right now as he's trying to establish relationships with me as he's older and not because he wasn't at home, he had to work 2 jobs to provide for us, right? So now he wants that relationship, but I have my own family. I can't be your son and their father at that same time. That's a lot. That's a lot. So, and I'm just giving that out to anybody that may be experiencing this. Spending time with your children, because later in your life, I see it. It's a lot. It's a lot for a man to handle. As you know, for those of us with children, they are expensive. So I had to move. I had to make a decision to relocate back towards some free childcare. So I moved back towards our parents. They both live in the city of Richmond. So that worked out for us. With the gap that I also created, I assisted my wife in paying off her student loans. I was able to give my wife $10,000 to help her accelerate her student loan payoff. This is the gist of my story. Diligence, having a plan, sticking to it, and not raising my standard of living to bump up into my income. Your standard of living is going to creep. No doubt. It's going to creep. It's going to happen. But if you can manage it, so it doesn't bump directly into what you're actually bringing home, this gap right here, that's when the dreams come true. That's when the dreams are made financially. That's where you can go out there and do the things and pursue the things that you truly want to do for yourself and for your family. Current day, I actually got another position to raise my income. I work for the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond. I get to do fun stuff with actual physical notes and security in it. It's actually a pretty neat job. The engineer side of me gets to do really geeky stuff with dollars. I get to destroy money for work, which is cool. We purchased our first home in 2020. The reason that's on this, it is important, is because if we still had student loans, if she still had student loans, if we still had a car payment, we wouldn't be able to afford the home that we're living in right now. And we're expecting our second child, so we were able to buy a home that we could actually grow into. But because we got rid of our debt, and because we got rid of all the extra expenses that we didn't need, we still live frugally, and because we didn't bump up against our actual money, and we stayed with our gap, we actually increased our gap because she got a position where she raised her income. We were able to purchase our first home, and then September of this year, as you can tell, once I became a father, I became very family-oriented. I'll probably talk your head off about my daughter, if you allow me. I became very family-oriented. I started a family trust. So my wife and I got together, and we got with a estate planning lawyer, and we started a family trust to take care of our family. So these are the magical goals that I've achieved with the discipline, the help from Jerome and James. James was actually being a father and being present in the moment at home. Jerome was making sure that I'm sticking to my plan, making sure I'm being disciplined, and making sure that I'm being the man that I said I was going to be to my family. All right, so what can you actually take from this? The lessons learned. It's hard to invest if you don't have your personal finances in order. So, there's no way I could have made those 3 investments into those multifamily deals if I did not already have my personal finances aligned with the goals that I wanted to create a gap, keep a gap, and invest that gap. It's possible to invest even if you're not a high income earner. Made under $100,000 for many years and still invested into 3 deals. You can educate yourself and have a mentor. So that's Jerome and I, exchanging information on a constant basis. We still do this. We still pass each other articles. It's a lot on YouTube now, so there's a lot of information out there for us to pass to each other. We still pass that to each other. And then be prepared when it's go time. So the third and final multifamily deal, Jerome kind of took me to go see one of our second property that we invested in. And he was like, yeah, you know what? I got something else you should see. We hopped in the building, rode over to this place he thought about buying. And he's like, yeah, look at this, I'm thinking about this one. On our way over there, I told him, man, I don't have more money to invest. I'm kind of tapped out right now. We get over there, I do one of these, I was getting to look around, I touch it. Oh, it's nice. Wow, we can do something with this. We can make this happen. As we're walking back to get into the truck, as I'm closing the door, I was like, I have the money to you Monday. I'll have the money to you Monday, right? So I figured out, I knew I had it, but I didn't want to spend it. I have the money to you Monday. So I gave him the money for me to invest in that deal. And that's why it's important to be prepared when it's go time. All right, so this is pretty much the story I told you. I recognized the dream. The dream was I wanted to see more of my paycheck. I made the decision to take it serious. I was vulnerable. I called Jerome. I created a plan. I'm an engineer. I always have a plan in place. I reached out to Jerome. I was vulnerable. Removed the extra baggage. Cable, cars, anything that's not a necessity for you to live. For me, my necessities are kind of Spartan. For other people, they may be a little different. My necessities are I need to have a roof over my head, food and refrigerator, and a car to get around. Everything else, I can kind of figure it out, right? I can make it happen, right? Then work the plan. To James's point, you have to work your plan, you have to make adjustments, right? Evaluate your skill set and see how you can elevate it the quickest. This is one of the most important things that I didn't really talk about yet. I'll touch on it in another slide there. Take action, achieve the dream, because I achieved the dream, And then celebrate. I'm working on that. Dr. D is working with me on celebrating. Jerome is also working with me on celebrating. I struggle in that area. And then you go back to step one, right? Recognize that new dream and keep going forward. All right. For those that need to, that need ingredient. So my story's fine. My story's good. But these are the takeaways, right? These are things I want you to go home with, right? Things that I did that I recognize I did throughout that. I identified my spending habits. I did what I call get intimate with my finances. I figured out for more than 30 days, I tracked every dollar that went out. Every single dollar that went out of the house. Know what I was spending it on. And then I identified it in a spreadsheet. There are a lot of apps out there. I'm a spreadsheet kind of guy, so I definitely use that. One of the big things that I actually went to is tracking my emotions when making this decision. I had to figure out where I was emotionally spending money. And that's probably important for everyone, because we do it, we're human beings, it happens. I had to figure out where I was emotionally spending money, dial that back, reel that in, deal with why I'm emotionally spending that money there, figure it out, and then go forward. And then another big one was, does this directly relate to happiness, freedom, and goals? If my money did not go to one of those three, it got reallocated to go to one of those three, right? Identify your spending habits, step one. Identify opportunities to be more efficient with your money. That's when you go on your budget and you start eliminating things out of your actual budget. You start figuring out how you can actually grow and make it to your actual goal. What's a necessity in your life? One that's really important to me, what truly makes you happy. Happiness can be fleeting, but if you know the 5 for me, it's the 5 things that truly make me happy. Cars, going out to eat with my wife, the adventure of exercise, riding my bike, spending time with my family, which includes my father, my mother, and my 2 sisters, and the 5th one I can't think of right now, but those are the 4 that I really spend most of my money on right now. I know it's 5. I always cut my bills in half. I got creative with my finances and finding alternatives, and then going scorched earth is something that is usually frowned upon for some people, but for people like me, I can actually do it. I can go scorched earth and be perfectly fine with it. This is where we live. This is where the dreams are found. This is where we have the most fun. This is identify the gap.
Define scorched earth.
Scorched earth is different for everybody. Scorched earth for me was selling my car, not going out to eat with my wife. So it looks different for everybody, but it's, yeah, I'm not spending extra money in different places. Identifying the gap, like I said, this is where the dreams live. Align your money with your goals, making sure that your money is actually going towards what you say your money should go towards. What dreams are you actually pursuing? What dreams are you chasing? If you're not spending your money towards there, then you're kind of just throwing your money in the rain. You'll never be the woman or man that you said you were going to be. And then the quotes to repeat. The very first one. You have a lot of extra money. Dr. James, what do you want? I can tell you the story later if you ask me about that. Maurice, the notion that you need $1 million to be free is dead, which it is. This 4th one right here is very big. Your job gives you a paycheck for those that are still working W-2s. Your job gives you a paycheck. That is probably the only thing that they do not have control over when it comes to their job. Don't blow it. Don't blow it. Use it to get free. And don't stack the deck against yourself. And that's what I did when I had the 4 vehicles and the student loans and going out to eat. I built the deck up against myself so I couldn't win. This is how to contact me. Just email me. I'm actually a person that actually reads their emails. Email me is probably the best way. And that's my Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. If I have any time to address any questions, I do. All right.
This is more of a comment. I love that you did that all with your finances, but what was clear to me throughout your presentation is that you also did that with your time, which is probably the most important resource for all of us.
Right.
You were constantly doing those same questions with your time of evaluating how am I spending my time? Is it helping gear towards happiness? Is it helping me achieve what I actually want to do? And so all of those questions that you asked about money, I saw throughout the presentation you were asking those same questions about your time, and I love that.
I'm glad you pointed that out. I did not realize that until I was making this presentation.
All of your quotes, I know the top three, but the last one was you to you. Is that a book?
No, so this is what I said to myself. Right? You,
Okay, got it.
I didn't have anybody to put it on. I didn't want to put my name up there, right? So here's what you say to yourself, right?
Okay.
This is what you say to yourself when you're talking to yourself.
You need to write a book.
Yeah.
Called You to You.
You,
There you
right?
go.
Yeah.
Got it.
So scorched earth means sleeping in a twin-size bed. Well,
Those
your
full size.
woman sleeping in a twin-size
Yeah.
bed and you sleeping on the floor. It means, what is that? Patio furniture in your
Yeah.
living room?
Yeah, the Pakistan in the living room. So fortunately for me, I don't mind sleeping on the floor. Sharing, two adults sharing a full-size bed that I had since like middle school was tough, right? And my wife, wild sleeper, you know, she takes up the majority of the bed. So for all the years, the 5 years we stayed in Northern Virginia, I slept on the floor. I still sleep on the floor to this day. And we have a king-size bed. So one of the things I did to celebrate, that you might not know, I went out and bought a big screen TV. Didn't matter, I wanted one, right? I went out and bought a king-size bed. Didn't matter, I figured we needed one. She went with me through this entire journey, so I was like, you can actually have a pretty large size of the bed. And I still sleep on the floor the majority of the time. It's more comfortable for me for some reason. But she was able to, like I said, pay off her loans, and she was able to experience some of the joys in that. There's a funny conversation about how she decided to pay off her student loans that I don't know if Jerome wants to talk about. Okay, all right, we won't talk about it.
Selective.
In my Toyota Tercel, which was $800 that I got in college, with a $3,000 bike on the back. I recognize in me that even though I'm a car guy, the biking and the adventure of biking was more important to me than being a car guy. So I went and got the bike. And I still have the bike to this day. I didn't ride it this year because of injury, but I still have the bike to this day. I still ride it a lot. For those that follow me on social media, you can see me out there pushing the miles around. I still enjoy it. That was one of the things, the adventure of exercise, so I run a lot as well. I spend money there. I'm just getting back to spending money in cars because we're at a pretty good place in our lives. But spending money on the exercise and the adventure of that, spending money on cars, and spending money with my wife. I will spend a lot of money with just me and my wife going to dinner. Because I know for us, that's our time. For me, it's like sitting down at a beautiful fireworks display. Right? Think of the most beautiful thing you can think of in your life. That's what going out to eat is. Going out to eat with my wife is for me. Right? So I spend my money there because I know I'm getting fulfillment and I'm getting value out of that. That's different for everybody else. Like for somebody else, it might be getting that cup of coffee from Starbucks. Don't be ashamed to spend money there. I'm working, Dr. D, I'm working on these things. Don't be ashamed to spend money there, right? Because it brings fulfillment. It makes you happy.
All right, tell the story.
All right, so the powwow, right? So for those that don't know, Jerome puts on a powwow at the mountaintop, and we're in there, and we're making each other better, and we start talking about paying off the student loans. Jerome knows my wife. My wife thought he was a ghost for many years because she never met him, but he was always the guy I was always talking to. We got in there, and we started talking about the importance of paying off the student loans, and my wife had not yet started to aggressively pay off hers. Right? And I'm in my financial situation, I don't push this on my wife. I kind of tell her, this is what I'm going to do, this is how this is going to impact you, but I'm not going to force what I'm doing on you. That's a byproduct of us being together for 13 years before getting married, so we don't really mix our money like that. We figure out how to work our financial situation without our money colliding too much. There was a video rolling. And I said to Jerome, I can't remember the exact statement, but we was talking about my wife paying off her student loans. And Jerome said, what were the words? Willing participant. Yep. She's a willing participant, but she wasn't ready to pay off her student loans. Right? She didn't take the jump or the leap to actually do it. That comment and that clip actually made it to, was that YouTube or Instagram? Probably was Instagram. That comment made it to YouTube. My wife consumes the majority of Jerome's content, right? And a lot of you in here, she consumes a lot of your content as well, just to let you know. So she's definitely seen your interview as well. You know, so my wife knows who a lot of you guys are our face, right? Which is crazy to me. But she heard that clip. She paused, because I kind of walked in when she heard it. She paused. She sat there for a second, replayed it. Said, all right. That's it. At that moment, she decided, I'm putting a plan in place, I'm going to scorch earth. We're not doing anything because I am serious. And I want to show you that I'm serious by paying off my student loans. So at that moment, and like I said, I don't push myself on my wife. Her decision with her finances on how she wants to approach it. She went scorched earth from a conversation that I didn't know was going to get out, and it actually made our lives better. Like my wife got rid of her student loan, she paid off $31,000 in a year.
Ooh.
Wow.
9 months. 9 months. I'm sorry, 9 months. She had a podcast with Jerome. Yeah, not in 9 months. She was able to do that. All because of a conversation that shouldn't have got out. But I'm glad it did, because without that, we wouldn't be able to get the house that we were in. She wouldn't be able to see the gap in the finances that we were able to create. So it actually worked out in my favor.
Thank you so much.
What's your 3 things?
3 things?
Yeah, your mantra, your 3.
Oh, it's 4. It's run, live, strive, create. So because I like to run, put yourself in a position to move faster than a walking pace. So actually physically get out and run, and then run to and through your actual problems. Sometimes we sit there with our problems in our face and we won't necessarily attack it as we should. Attack your problems, they're usually not that big. I work on it every day where I make a mountain out of a molehill, right? Instead of just attacking. Attack your problems. They're usually a lot smaller, a lot easier to take care of. Lift weights, right? Put a strain in your body that forces it actually to grow. As we get older, we definitely need to get stronger. So to build your muscles, actually lift. And then the other meaning is to uplift people. Help people out. Me being here is a lift. I'm trying to provide information for you guys to either give to yourself or somebody you know to help lift them up. Strive. So my strive is related to cycling and related to striving for my goals. Cycling and swimming, and related to striving for my goals. Cycling, if you ever ride with me, it's going to be torturous because we're going to ride too far out. We're going to ride too far out. If you say you want to ride 25 miles, I'm probably going to take you to somewhere to 15 miles out. So now we got a 15-mile ride back. And that's going to be painful, but that's where you grow. That ride back is where you grow. That painful ride back is where you figure out what you're made of and where you grow. All right? And then create. So in a time period when Jerome first started talking to me about, well, when I called Jerome, we figured out a plan and how to work through it. One of the things that I realized that kind of had me down was I wasn't creative, right? So I have a very artsy side that I have to feed, right? And I wasn't feeding it because I was living that dream of drinking with my friends and hanging out after work and stuff like that. I wasn't feeding that artsy side, I wasn't feeding that artsy side, which kind of led me down a path that to spiral out of control, gain weight and things of that nature. Create the memories, actually create, do things that you put your hands in to help create and create the life and build the life that you actually want. That's the most important part. So you're running, lifting, and striving so you can get to the end so you can create the life that you actually want.
All right, Duron, thank you for including that. That's a great Okay, we are going to take a break. All right, I think we're going to get back together.